Welcome back to my series Left of the Dial. We're going to look at albums 40 down to 31. Refresher, these are albums. Many of them were really popular on college radio, these groups, not necessarily the albums, but these groups. Others are just part of the alt scene of the 80s. So this is just 80s music, but not the mainstream 80s. And we started at 100, working our way down. Really no particular order as best to favorites, but I will say probably the last 20 are ones that I really like. So tonight, thanks to my friend Dean, we're sponsored by Mariani Game Jerky. This is Kangaroo, and it does say authentic taste. So he sent me this, and I'm going to finally open this, and we're going to see what Kangaroo tastes like, because it does say it's authentic. Okay, so here we go. Kangaroo. Jerky. Kind of sweet. Kind of soy. Okay. I'll tell you this, you can't really do this if you're eating jerky in your mouth, though. You just gotta chew and chew. So, thank you, Dean. Thank you, Mike. Go die. For kangaroo jerky. At least now I can say, I ate a kangaroo. Every time I see one on TV, I go, I ate one of those. It's not bad. It tastes like jerky. All right. It's not beef jerky, though. Let's start number 40. Talk about the Cynics. There, is that better? The Cynics. The Cynics. It's a neo-psychedelic garage band that came out of Pittsburgh. They formed in 83, lasted until 94, reformed in 02, and still playing. This band, they've put out 8 different albums, and their influences, it's clearly from garage bands from around 66 and the punk explosion of 77. You can really hear that in the music. This is their debut album. It's called Blue Train Station, and it came out in 86. It's kind of melodic rock, but with these wonderful pop melodies going on. And when I say melodic, I don't mean like quiet and that. I mean, it really rocks hard. It's just done in such a nice way that's not grating, shall we say. I mean, the title song, Blue Train Station, I mean, that song, it chugs like a locomotive with this full-powered R&B guitars just strumming and a harmonica blast coming in. Gives you a really good feel of garage rock. The song No Way, it has maracas and the snarling punk scream that's happening. Oh, excuse me, that's my jerky there. Dean, it's good, all right? There's also, within this album, if you like a Hammond organ, you're going to like this. There's a lot of Hammond organ going on, a lot of organ blasts. I would say, you know, No Fun. It's another song that I really liked. It had this, you know, these distorted guitars, and it's just something when cranked up to 11. You know, you can just hear the snarl and the venom from the lyrics. It's just a really good song. You know, when I listen to it, there aren't like no earth-shattering type lyrics. It's just how they present them. It's music that has catchy hooks and just makes you want to, you know, come back and get more. It really does. Garage rock revival group, and from a group that really knew how to do it right. That's number 40, The Cynics.
What it's
Number 39, we have Black Flag. This is an American punk rock band that came from Hermosa Beach, California. They formed in '76. They went on to '86. They were really one of the first hardcore punk bands and was definitely a pioneer of the post-hardcore movement. What was neat is, they voiced a very anti-authoritative and nonconformist message with their songs. And they dealt a lot about social isolation, neurosis, poverty, paranoia. And during that time, they put out 7 albums. A few of them I have, here's one, Slip It In. We have Black Flag, Wasted Again. And then there is Family Man, which, okay, that's really kind of a scary cover, a little disturbing. But the one we're going to talk about is Damaged, their most popular, most famous. This was their first album, and this came out in '81. It was also the first time that Henry Rollins, unless your parents, then he was called Henry Garfield, he had just joined the group as their vocalist. This is really considered to be a classic and was highly influential for a lot of bands. It still is. It contains the very popular but also very dated song TV Party Tonight. And this song comes complete with screaming guitars and hand claps as they sing about TV shows that they're going to watch, only to be disappointed because their TV set is broken. So, the guitarist, guy's name's Greg Ginn. And this guy, he knows how to create a lot of noise. Kind of like a dentist drill, if you know what I mean. And Rollins, he just snarls through the lyrics. My goodness, he's good. These songs are like short bursts of intense energy. Spray Paint, for instance, a song that's 32 seconds long that begins with a second or two of feedback, kind of like an engine revving up, and then it just takes off. The band screams out the chorus of spray paint the walls as they just start screaming about. This album, Damage, this thing's pure adrenaline, and it's just filled with unadorned aggression and violence, both self-inflicted, but also that's brought to bear due to the abuse of other people or due to the abuse of the masses. Really influential, really important album from a really good group, Black Flag, number 39. Coming in at number 38, the Del Fuegos. The band formed in 1980, broke up in 1990, out of Boston, which had an incredible music scene in the 80s. This was formed by the Zane brothers, whose relationship I guess you could best say, was kind of like the brothers in the Kinks and Jesus and the Mary Chain Gang. It really wasn't that good. But these guys, they played a garage-style rock along with roots rock, blues rock, and even power pop. That was all part of what they did. During this time, they released 5 albums in the 80s before they broke up. So Boston, Mass, this one came out in 1985, and this was their second LP that was fueled by the hit Don't Run Wild, which was just, that song blew me away. I loved it. Their first album was this one, the Del Fuegos. Look how young. It looks like a bunch of 16-year-olds, but at my age anymore, everyone looks like they're 16. But this album, it was slicker and more polished than that first album, but the guitars were tighter, and they really knew how to crank up the amps and to get, these hard rocking songs, they made them sound great. They had really a crack rhythm section, and they were able just to keep that music barreling forward throughout the whole album. You know what's playing in the background now, Don't Run Wild. It's just belted out with ragged emotion. And while even the song Fade to Blue, it's a ballad, you can feel it done with this restrained anger. Just great stuff. They have a traditional rockabilly sound to them. I would say kind of with the emphasis on guitars that you would find in the Blasters and in Los Lobos. Night on the Town, that's another song, and this emphasizes the sound of the guitar, and the lyrics just snarl about a night without the one that you love. There's more piano. It's also evident on this album. But this album, this was the peak of their success. But man, what a great album. And you can still find this thing fairly inexpensive. The Del Fuegos, and this one is called Boston Mass from number 38. Number 37, the incredible, the absolutely stupendous Screaming Blue Messiahs. This was a three-piece band that was formed in London in 1983, and they went on till 1990. This band was a classic power trio, and they had this really aggressive blend of rhythm and blues, punk, and rockabilly. Their lead singer and guitarist, Bill Carter, he employed this rhythmic, blues-influenced, feedback-laden guitar style that it was incredible. Their sound was like rockabilly from hell. They released 3 full albums, and during that time they had this deep fascination for American culture, for cars, guns, evangelism, and it was only strengthened after the tour through the U.S. So this is their second album. This came out in '87. Their very first album was Gun Shy, an incredibly good album. Their third album was called Totally Religious, and then they also, you could pick up like the John Peel sessions. But we're going to talk about their second album. This one's called Bikini Red. Their love for America is really reflected in here, even with the titles of the songs. There's I Want to Be a Flintstone, I Can Speak American, Jesus Chrysler Drives a Dodge, and the song 55 is the Law. It's like a joyous powder keg of aggressive vocals and guitars, and it's just jam-packed with real snarky humor. It kicks off with what you can hear in the background. It's just this butt-gusted raunch of Sweetwater pools, and there's just this and then of course you have the song that begins the second side. It's the really funky and funny I Want to Be a Flintstone that actually became a hit. But the songs, they just don't let up. Jesus Chrysler Drives a Dodge on his way to success has this incredibly propulsive beat, like you're driving down the highway at 120 miles an hour. This is such an incredible album from a group that should have been so much more, but you can find their music in the bargain bins. It's really inexpensive. But if you like a power trio that has a rockabilly punk type edge to them, this is the band for you. Screaming Blue Messiahs. Number 36, it's the Flesh Eaters. You gotta love that name, don't you? I think so. This was an LA punk band formed in '77 and went on till '83, but they have actually reformed several times since then. Their lead singer, Chris D, he liked to write poetry that I would say could be best described as collages of B-movie dementia, hot rod demons, Catholic martyrdom, and horror film minutia. Yeah, that would kind of describe it. They have put out 16 albums. There they are. Look at that artwork, okay? That kind of tells you what you're getting into here. A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die. This is their second full album, and this is a really important album. It's probably, I would say, their most famous album, and it even has John Doe from X playing on bass and David Elvin from the Blasters playing guitar. The album, it slides between these wars of punk bombast to American swamp roots, kind of an underpinning there, and then there's just explosive jazz improvs that just appear suddenly. But they're done, like, they're just so darn original. Sax just starts going off, you know, what is that? Chris D, I mean, he roars instead of snarls. And, you know, the highlights to me, you know, there's songs called Digging My Grave, or See You in the Boneyard, Satan Stomp, and The Divine Horseman. I mean, it kind of just tells you where their head's at. The sax wailing, again, it gives it this free jazz type feel, but it just adds texture to the songs. And it really sets this apart from other punk bands that were going on at that time. I don't know, I kind of think of the Contortions at times. This album, it's full of raw power and rage. Such a great album by the group The Flesh Eaters, coming in at number 36 for me. Number 35 is Suicidal Tendencies. This was a crossover thrash band. It was formed in 1980 in Venice, California, and it's still playing with vocalist Mike Muir. He's the only original member. During this time, they have released 13 albums. This is their self-titled debut, and this came out in '83. This album, it's fast, it's furious, and actually kind of funny, because all I want is a Pepsi. The songs, when you listen to them, they deal with alienation, depression, and nonconformist politics. I know, pretty humorous stuff, right? But it is done with intelligence, and it is done with humor. And again, it contains the punk standard, shall we say, institutionalized about a boy where everyone thinks he's on drugs and all he wants is a Pepsi. And I'll play you a snippet of that. There's a song, I Shot the Devil, which was originally titled I Shot Reagan. But rumor has it that when the FBI heard that, they came and told them to change the name of the song. I mean, these songs, the songs on this album, they're just blistering metal thrash. And the band, I mean, they're like a screaming cyclone of power and determination. Nobody takes a breath in this album. It just, from the word go, it takes off in wars, and there is no sitting back. The album, it has influenced a multitude of bands, and it's considered to be a very influential album. It was really the perfect crossover between hardcore punk and metal. Such an incredibly good album by an incredibly good group. Suicidal Tendencies.
Like staring at the wall, thinking about everything, sitting down, thinking about nothing. And then my mom came in, and I didn't even know she was there. She called my name, and I didn't hear it, and she started screaming, "Why? Why?" And I go, "What? What's the matter?" She goes, "What's the matter with you?" I go, "What's the matter, Mom?" She goes, "Don't tell me that. You're on drugs." I go, "No, Mom, I'm not on drugs. I'm okay. I'm just thinking, you know? Why don't you give me a Pepsi?" She goes, "No, you're on drugs." I go, "Mom, I'm okay. I'm just thinking." She goes, "No, you're not thinking, you're on drugs. Normal people don't act that way." I go, "Mom, just give me a Pepsi, please. All I want is a Pepsi." And she wouldn't give it to me. All I wanted was a Pepsi. Just one Pepsi. And she wouldn't give it to me. Just a Pepsi. She went to it with my knees, 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 with my knees. Oh, I'm not crazy. You're the one that's crazy. You gotta be crazy. It's the business. It's you can say what. The only solution you can give from that time is getting up and getting me myself.
Number 34, the Waterboys. This was a Scottish-Irish folk rock band that was formed in Edinburgh in '83, and they've actually put out 15 albums as of last year. The name of the group, the Waterboys, actually came from a Lou Reed song. The song was off the Berlin album called, the song name was The Kids, and they talked about the Waterboys in that album. When you think about the Waterboys, their early music, it was really influenced by Patti Smith, Bob Dylan, and David Bowie, and you can hear those influences. It also, to me, it sounded similar to like Van Morrison and U2, and it was labeled as alt-rock and post-punk. The singer and writer Mike Scott, he is the only permanent member from this group. So this is their self-titled debut. It came out in '83. They then, they put out this one, and this is Pagan Place. They also had, this was the very first mini LP, and then of course they moved into Fisherman Blues, which is one of my absolute all-time favorite albums. But we're talking about their alternative, when they were really out there earning a name for themselves. So this self-titled album was released in '83. The very first single, which is playing in the background right now, A Girl Called Johnny, stands out due to this wailing sax that they have going on. The songs on here, they're sweeping and they're romantic and they're stretched out. They're not really fast and quick. I would say their style, you could be labeled, is what they called at the time big music, which had this Celtic sound similar to U2, Big Country, and Simple Minds. The songs are filled with piano chords, saxophones come along with guitars and drums in there. Really, these songs, they have this grandeur to them, but yet it doesn't feel overproduced. They definitely were really alternative when they came out and they hit the college charts. So number 34, the Waterboys. Number 33, Jason and the Scorchers. This group was formed in Nashville in 1981, and they are still performing. They were an alt-country band that really combined alt-rock with country music. They were one of the bands that paved the way for the cowpunk movement and also for alt-country. They have produced 13 different albums, full-length albums. This group, they're known for their high-energy shows, and when they came out, they absolutely shook up Nashville. They really weren't ready for Jason and the Scorchers. So Lost and Found, this was their first full-length album, and it debuted in 1985. It opens up with the song that's playing in the background, Last Time Around. It just comes out, guitars blazing, drums banging, and this close harmony. It's a no-quarter rocker that just starts off with a blast of snare drum. And the snare drums, they sound like gunshots. And the power chords, they slice like a machete. It's that good. There's songs like Money Talks and White Lies, which show really that they were true country punks. You can feel that in there. Then there's like Broken Whiskey Glass that has this honky-tonk piano, and Blanket of Sorrow with this feral fiddle work, and their traditional impulses. You can hear it in that song. Most of this album, it races by at 95 miles per hour, but they actually did add, just for you, a couple acoustic numbers to allow you to catch your breath. Jason and the Scorchers. This album, it's just pure fun, and really you can't go wrong by finding this and buying it. Again, a fairly inexpensive album. Number 33, Jason and the Scorchers. Number 32, the Godfathers. Actually, I said it is the Godfathers. There it is. This was a London alt-rock band that was formed in 1985 and broke up in the 00. but then they reformed again in '08. It was formed by two brothers, Chris and Peter Coyne, but nothing's been written about them wanting to kill each other, which I think that is good. The group, they put out 9 albums, and if you're a fan of, shall we say, Dr. Feelgood or Eddie and the Hot Rods, then the early Godfathers would be right up your alley. So this is the first album, Birth, School, Work, and Death. This came out in '88. This was their next one, came out in '89, More Songs About Love and Hate. You gotta love album titles like that, right? So this album, this thing was big in the college music charts and on college radio. It really took off. The lyrics, they deal with the working class angst that was going on in Britain, because this is a British band, by the way, I forgot to mention that. In the song Strange Boy, I mean, they sing about my future's past is already gone and been. I mean, that is bleak. You know, they're looking at England as a landscape of poverty, drugs, and desperation. During that time of Margaret Thatcher. This album, I mean, it seethes with anger and aggression. The title track, it's just gloomy with these shouted vocals along with this head-bobbing bass line and toe-tapping beat. It's really an incredible, and entitled as Birth, School, Work, and Death. Great stuff. If I only had time, in the song Tell Me Why. These are hard rockers that, I mean, they're catchy, but they're filled with really confessional and gritty lyrics. When Am I Coming Down? I mean, it's packed with this swirling, distorted guitar. And the lyrics, they sing about an acid trip that had gone bad, and it's told from the view of the person that overdosed on the drugs. Really dark stuff. This album, it's gritty, it's tough, it rocks hard, and it's inexpensive to find out there. But what a great album when you think of Left of the Dial and the college charts that was going on. Number 32, The Godfathers. Number 31, Camper von Beethoven. This was a rock band that came out of Redlands, California, formed in '83, broke up in '90. They actually reformed in '99, and they're still playing. They mixed quirky lyrics with pop, ska, punk rock, folk, alt country. They were like everywhere. After they broke up, their lead singer, David Lowery, he formed Cracker, and while other members went to the Counting Crows and Monks of Doom. They did 6 studio albums in the 80s, and they did, 4 more since '99. They became known for their song Take the Skinheads Bowling and their version of Status Quo's Picture of Matchstick Men, which I'm playing in the background. Take the Skinheads Bowling was on this album here, and this is Telephone Free Landslide Victory. And Take the Skinheads Bowling, if you've never heard that one, pull that up. It's hilarious. And it's easy to sing to. But pictures, here we go. Key Lime Pie. This came out in '89. It was their final album before the internal tensions broke up the band. The guitar playing on this has more of a psychedelic sound to it. Lyrics still tend to be more political and social, though these guys had a lot of humor to them, and they throw that in. There are these rock churners like I Was Born in a Laundromat. Doesn't that sound great? That just sound to me kind of similar to Blur. Then there's like Jack Ruby, and it's filled with these tense rhythms and very, very thick soloing. There's country and folk influences. You can in one of the songs you can really feel them. It was I was, oh, hold on. If I win the laundry mat, and no, if I win the lottery, if I win the laundry mat, if I win the lottery was the song. And what I liked about that is they have these lyrics that go, I'm going to donate half my money to the city, so they have to name a park, a street, or school after me. I mean, that's pretty funny. Pictures of Matchstick Men was the main song, and that thing took off. It hit the college radio big time. I didn't know it was even a remake. I just heard that song and it became my jam. I played it so often off this. I mean, and it's just wonderful. It's filled with these distorted guitars along with this whomping drum beat and a violin that just creates this eerie atmosphere. It's an incredibly good song. I mean, really, they made that song their own. They went out on top, but this was, at least they went out on top, you know, with this album, but then they did reform. Camper von Beethoven, and the name of the album, Key Lime Pie, number 31. So that's this week, everybody. Again, as always, I thank you for taking the time to watch and go through these college music albums and alternative albums that definitely were not the mainstream in the 80s, very much left to the dial. Truly appreciate it, you taking time to spend with me. Have yourself a great rest of the week, and don't forget, get your kangaroo jerky. It's different. It is, but it tastes authentic, so what are you going to do? Bye.